government... It's all about the dinghy crossings, according to the Home Secretary. It's about the weather. Who'd have thought it, Nigel?
Well, that's the point. I mean, for some reason, the Tory party are getting really sort of up in arms about this. But what the government are doing is collecting data about the weather to match with the number of people who cross.
Give me
It's obvious, isn't it?
Well, I know they're collecting data. When it's not windy, they cross in greater numbers.
So what they want to do is they are just collecting the data to see what sort of weather...
Perhaps they should buy a wind machine.
I was just going to say, why don't they put a great big fan at the coast and just blow them all back?
I think Priti Patel thought about that and they decided that wouldn't have worked.
Nigel.
But isn't it quite a good idea just to simply have the data...
It just shows how incompetent and hopeless they are.
Do you know, we're in a world where they won't tell us who's committing violent sexual crime, but they will tell us about the weather and boat crossings because they want to discuss that in order to find an excuse for why we are going to hit record numbers this year. And do you know what? It's irrelevant because what's happening is the boats are bigger, they've got more people on them, and all of the pools that are pulling people here continue. The hotel rooms, the telephones, the driving lessons, the money, everything. Until we stop all of that, the boats are going to come whether the sun shines or not.
Yeah, look, Doc, I take all that point. That's all fine. But the point here is that it seems to be it's a simple data-collecting exercise. What sort of weather encourages more people?
Nigel, you don't need a Home Secretary to do data collecting. We know when it's not very windy, they cross in numbers.
Of course we do.
You look at the sea, think they'll be coming over today.
If it's nice and calm and sunny, or like it was on Saturday, a load of people cross. Of course we do.
They're fiddling while Rome's burning.
Is correlating it. And
Can't they get on with smashing the gangs?
Well, the smashing the gangs thing has not been particularly successful so far this year.
No kidding.
Funny that.
Who could have predicted that,
well,
Nigel?
I do think that he ought to have had more of a result. The Keir Starmer should have had more of a result, given that we're now coming into the first year of a Labour government.
Couldn't we also have said to the European Union, stuff your reset agreement until we have a proper deal to stop the migrants flooding across the Channel?
OK, but what does that deal look like?
Well, it means the French police do not stand there idly laughing and taking photographs when dinghies are pouring into the Channel. That's what it means.
Do you know what
That's
it looks like? It looks like this. France. Everyone that comes over, we're bringing them back to you. And every time you say no, we're taking away 10 more fishing licences. That's what it looks like.
Oh, OK. Well, why doesn't France just join in this little game and say, right, but because these people haven't come to France, they're only passing through France to get to Britain.
They haven't definitely come to France, Nigel.
They haven't come there to go and sort of look at the sights of Calais. They've come there to actually
come to Britain.
To cross to Britain.
But they're in a safe country.
So they're not actually France's problem.
Yes, they
are.
So
if we follow René's idea...
We're paying them 500 million, so they are their problem.
Well, we're paying them 500 million to try and stop it. But
they're coming from France, because in France they get a tent in a camp.
Right.
They don't get driving licences. They don't get bikes and travel passes and taken to the zoo for a day to help them feel like they're part of us. That's why they're coming from France.
Yeah, but what the French the French could do is just help them across and take them off and drop them off in Norfolk. If we start saying, right, we want all these migrants to go back to France because you're a safe country.
What do you think the French fishermen would do when their licences started disappearing? What do you think they would do?
How on earth do you actually put licences together with migrants?
Because it's about a negotiation, Nigel. It's about saying, I've got in my hand something you really, really want. You've got in your land something we don't want. Let's do a trade.
And the French will turn around and say, we're not sure we quite like that deal. I'll tell you what, we'll actually ban you from the £150 billion defence contracts that you might be able to get.
We're not in that yet, anyway.
Or we end up...
Well, we have to pay to get into that, and we don't even know if we're going to get any contracts.
Well, but it's being negotiated at the moment.
Yeah, but why have we already done the fishing deal when we haven't sorted out the Channel?
Yeah.
Because they're different things.
No, they're not.
Can we talk about a different thing?
Please.
Please. I lose the will to live on that topic. I'm so sorry. I know people feel it's important, but I find it so frustrating that nothing changes. Talking of change, Dr. René Hundekamp, Tony Blair would like the likes of you, kind and compassionate, and can do up someone's zip if they need it in your GP surgery like you just did to me. They want you to be replaced by AI.
I know. So, in reading this story, I think there's nothing wrong from using AI in radiology to read reports and spot cancers. And actually, a machine, in the end, when it's learned, is probably more accurate at doing that than a human. But what really astounds me in this article is that they're talking about them being more sensitive. It's a more sensitive approach. Now, you ask Ethel, who doesn't see many people in a week, who gets an AI doctor turn up to ask her if she's feeling OK, and, oh, by the way, your temperature is, I'm OK, I'm going now.
And when we say an AI doctor, let's just explain what we mean by that. So it wouldn't be a robot talking to Ethel.
It would be on a screen.
It would be on a screen, and poor Ethel, who may not be very good at technology anyway, because it is all moving so fast and you've got to be way ahead of the curve to understand how to use most systems these days anyway. That chat bot would say, how do you feel? She types in how she feels, and then they would try and work out by the algorithm of the AI what's wrong with Ethel.
Yeah.
It's utterly devoid of humanity.
This is it. We're losing more and more contact. You go to a supermarket, you don't see a human, you look at a machine. You know, everywhere you go now, it's all, can you do it on the app? Can you do it on the app? I tried to book an MOT for my car yesterday and was directed to a chatbot to do it for me.
Yeah.
You know, I was quite happy to talk to a human to do it, but no. And this is what we're doing. And we've got a mental health crisis. You know, the best thing for mental health? Human contact and conversation.
Yeah.
And a doctor, someone like you see someone, Renee, you might see them regularly, you can detect change in them.
Yeah.
You can see things.
You can see
feel
their
it.
mood, you can
Yeah.
feel it. Sometimes you say to patients, no, come on, there's something else. You're not telling me.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
Which AI will not be
Isn't this
programmed
about
to
what
do.
we should use AI for?
Yeah.
I mean, you're suggesting that those things would be the wrong things, but I mean, obviously, AI can help with hospital appointments. It'd be quite useful for that. It'd be quite useful for driving test backlogs, quite useful for passport delays. All those things are quite good. The bit that worries me about it is that we still don't know how AI works. And even Google's DeepMind senior scientist says, we're a bit concerned because we can't work out internally what these things are doing.
I wonder what the very powerful unions in the health service will make
Well,
of this too.
yeah, that'll be
BMA, for
interesting,
instance,
won't
the British
it?
Medical Association, because
I
this
mean,
could take doctors' jobs.
It could take doctors' jobs, everybody's job.
Yeah.
And in the end, what are people, in this world as a whole, not just doctors and nurses, what are people going to do? Then we come back to universal basic income, because that's the only way people will be able to make
Which
money.
has been trialled in Wales for the last couple of years anyway.
Yeah.
Because
Which is
we're
good.
waiting
I mean,
to see
it is something that's worth trialling.
what is universal basic income.
Yes.
To what end?
To what end? What you would do is you get rid of the benefit system. That if universal basic income worked, and at the moment we've only had trials, not just here, but around the world. They've done them in America, done them in Canada, done them in some places
Funny
in Europe.
that.
Pardon?
It's funny that. It's almost like there's a global push towards the
whole
government
thing
having more power. And
At the moment, it's only experimental. But the idea would be, if it worked, what you'd be able to do is scrap the benefit system. The whole kind of the DWP wouldn't need to exist because you wouldn't need all that administration.
hang on, but you're still
benefit.
getting a handout of taxpayers' money. In Wales, it's 400 quid a month is what they've trialled.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
yeah.
not a small amount of money.
No,
that's
it's not.
instead of a
What
job.
if everybody in England decided that they weren't going to do any work, they were just going to take their universal basic income? Where does the money come to pay the universal basic income?
Well, the money comes from the savings you get from elsewhere because
No.
Because as you start working, the tax system then takes away the excess
But what
money.
if you don't start working? What if everybody stays on universal income?
Well, is it likely that they would do that?
What if that's what happens?
Nigel, there is a
The four of us
generation-
round here, if we had a universal basic income, would we stop work?
No, but a 19-year-old would.
Not necessarily.
Millions are on
19-year-old
benefits now.
might well decide to go to university or spend even longer
Who's
at
paying for
university
those?
because of
We've got
it.
9-10 million people who are capable of work who are not working, Nigel.
And then there's a different argument there about why not.
Well, they would love
why
this
we're not
universal
They
finding
would
out
love it
why they're
because
not
all
saying
they
it.
do is sit on their screens all day. They watch Netflix. They might go out on a Lime bike, smoke a bit of weed, have 400 quid a week off the government.
Yeah.
Happy days. Trust me, there's a whole generation out there that would happily live like that, and they will end up frustrated, fat, thick, and lacking purpose.
I think it would be unfair to 19-year-olds. I think there's an awful lot out there who would go out and do
I
things.
think she knows a few.
I do know a few, but
She's
also
come across them.
yeah, but also though, what we were just chatting about in the break. If you feel as a young person, you'll never be able to afford your own house
Right.
anyway. You never will. You'll never make enough money to drive the Ferraris that they see on social media. Why would you not just take universal basic income and aspire to nothing. Because we're living at the moment in a culture where aspiration is being crushed anyway, because we've got tax rates of about 50%.
Highest ever.
50%. Right, anyway, moving on.
We didn't get a chance to talk about Hugh Bonneville.
No, we didn't.
Another time.